the books I've read over the month of August. I set myself a goal in January 2023 to read 50 books this year. We are now at the end of August. I have read 26 books. I am so behind on my reading goal and I'm so annoyed at myself, but I only have myself to blame. It's ridiculous. So today I'm going to share with you the books I read through the month of August. There's 3 books to share because I only read 3 books and I should be reading like 5 or 6 books a month. I have no excuse. People say, oh, you're a mum, it's okay, you're busy, blah, blah, blah. I had time to read these books, okay? I had time. I've been nap trapped in the car. I've been sat with a coffee numerous times when my kids have been napping, or kid has been napping when my son has been at nursery. I've had time. I've had plenty of time and I have not done it. And it's not like I've been using this time any other productive way. It's not like I've been cleaning or, I don't know, writing a book, because I'm not doing that, that's for sure. I've been scrolling online. I have a problem. That's the hard and fast thing. I've got a problem with scrolling because it's so easy to do, and I know I have to stop, but I enjoy it, and so that's that. So I read 3 books and they're okay, actually. They were not too bad, the books I listened to. 2 of them were autobiographies, 1 was fiction. I said in my previous book review that I wanted to start reading more fiction, and for some reason I only read 1. I am currently reading a fiction book at the minute as well, and I have I'm listening to a non-fiction book at the same time, which I like to do, but yeah, I've been very focused on autobiographies and non-fiction books over the past couple of months, and I wanted to change that, and I haven't changed that. That might be part of the reason why I'm not listening or reading books as often, because I'm sort of stuck in a rut of just like non-fiction, and after a while it can be a bit draining on the ye old noggin. But anyway, the 3 books I read and listened to this month are Becoming by Michelle Obama, It Takes Blood and Guts by Skin and Lucy O'Brien, and Girl A by Abigail Dean. So first of all, let's start with the first book I listened to, which was Becoming by Michelle Obama. I remember when this book came out many moons ago. Was it 2020 it came out, maybe? I don't know. I'm looking at my Goodreads account, my trusty Goodreads. I think it came, 2018 it came out. What's the reason? I'm trying to think of the reason why I wanted to listen to the book, Becoming by Michelle Obama. I haven't really got like a real reason for it. I felt like I was drawn to listen to it, but I don't really know why. Because obviously, as someone from the UK, I'm not very interested in American politics, because I'm not very interested in UK politics. I know what I like and what I don't like, and who I like and who I don't like. And similarly with America, obviously I know who I definitely don't like and I know who I do like, and so I thought that I would enjoy listening to this book because I like Michelle Obama. She seems like a great person. I like Barack Obama. He seems like a great guy, and so I thought I'd listen to the book, and I have to say I was a big fan. The first few chapters of listening to it, so reading obviously will be a very different experience. It's one thing I mentioned to Sean. I found that the first few chapters of her reading it, because she narrates it herself, I struggled with, because I felt like she was reading it like how she'd been trained to talk as a member of Parliament. You have Parliament in America, whatever they have. I don't know. Member of Congress? I don't know. A public figure. There we go. Because everything she said in her book ended up with let me give an example. Have some water? How do you feel about having a drink? I went to the shops and I bought an apple. And one day I went to the cafe and I bought a banana, and do you see what I mean? Obviously those sentences don't make any sense, you get it. But everything ended with it went up at the end, and it made me feel like really uneasy, because I felt like she was gonna say like, I went to the shops, and then was gonna have like this huge like dun 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 moment of someone died or something happened that was really dramatic, but it wasn't. It just carried on like normal, and I feel like that was like her public speaking voice of like keeping everyone on their toes kind of way of doing it. So I did struggle with the first chapter, but I did fade away after the first few chapters, and I can listen to it peacefully without feeling like there's going to be some sort of like dramatic moment at any moment in time. I did really enjoy the book. It was fun. It was interesting to see hear her background and see if she came from the South Side in Chicago, which is obviously a bit more of a rundown part of America, and how her family were like how her parents were super supportive of her and helped her and her brother achieve their goals and their dreams, and obviously everything led up to her meeting Barack and marrying him, and then he became the president. And and also the honesty in the book of her struggles with marriage and her relationship with Barack was very eye-opening actually, because it's just like everything always seems so lovely, and you know, the persona people give off, especially when they're like celebrities, unless like you get told through like the paparazzi, like, oh, they're looking like they're on the rocks. You don't get that with the presidents. Everyone's just happy all the time. So seeing Michelle, listening to Michelle talk about the struggles that she had in their relationship at the beginning was really like, oh wow, they're like normal people. They had like therapy, and they went through all sorts of stuff to make sure they were super strong together, because they were at a bit not super happy together. So that was really interesting. I do really recommend the book. I gave it 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. It was something that I knew I would enjoy. When I've seen her speak, I think she is quite enlightening. She seems like quite a down-to-earth type person, and it did make me laugh in the book when she was like, I want to say this now for the record, I will never be running for president. It's like, that's so funny, because obviously people want her to run for president, but she don't want to do it, which is fair enough. She's not good. At the beginning, she had no interest in politics whatsoever. Also, the chat about her meeting Queen Elizabeth was really interesting. She was saying that she was like penalised quite a lot for like touching Queen Elizabeth, even though Queen Elizabeth was very like welcoming and was happy to be touched on the arm. I think it was around the shoulders, wasn't it? She was touched around the shoulders by Michelle Obama, and the press went wild and was like, oh my God, she's touched the Queen. She's faux pas. You mustn't touch the Queen. And she just spoke about that in her book. And you think how petty the press is. Let's just calm down a bit. My goodness. But yeah, she was penalised quite a lot. She went through quite a hard time. But I think being the first black president, and the first obviously black, what's the president's wife called? I don't know. I have no idea. What's the term for it? I don't know. Being the first black president and president's candidacy, they had a lot of like stigma and stuff against them, and yeah, it's interesting to listen to. So I do recommend it if you are interested at all in Michelle Obama and her life. I have actually reserved Barack Obama's 2 books, I believe, and so I will be listening to them in the near future, because if I like Michelle Obama, I'm sure I like Barack Obama. Simple as that. Anyway, the next book I listened to is called It Takes Blood and Guts by Skin and Lucy O'Brien. Now, this is a huge curveball for me. This book, I had no idea what I was going into this book. So much so that the title of this book is called It Takes Blood and Guts. I thought the title of this book was called Skin because of the way the front cover looks, and because I had no idea who the person was on the front of the book. I have absolutely zero knowledge about this lady called Skin. So you can imagine my surprise when I realized that the book was called It Takes Blood and Guts and the author was the singer called Skin. Honestly, I had no idea. The reason why I wanted to listen to this book is because I wanted to see, well, first of all, on the app I use to listen to things, there's only so many like available books at a time, and I saw it and was like, I kept on seeing it, and so I was just like, you know what, let me give this book a go, because it keeps popping up, it's available, and maybe it's good to just listen to something that wouldn't even consider listening to. So I had no idea what this book was going to be about. Obviously I knew it was an autobiography, but I didn't know who Skin was, and so she's a very famous lady. So she is predominantly in the rock music genre, which I have absolutely zero knowledge about. I know Queen, they rock. I'm not that kind of type of person. So I don't know much about rock. So Skin is from a band called, I've got Goodreads up in front of me because, like I say, I want to be able to say things correctly. She's from a band called a Skunk Anansi, and she is just like, first of all she gives her like history of her growing up and what life was like for her, and then she went through there's a part in the book where she talks about when she was almost assaulted. She was assaulted in the sense that she was followed home and a man tried to get into a house with her, but thankfully she wasn't like physically harmed. But she speaks about this and it's so empowering what she did. So basically she was, like I say, so this man tried to follow her home and like she managed to escape him, thankfully, and then she went to court about this man and he got away with it in court because he was like, well, he got away with it. There's no he said she said type situation, and he got away with it. So after the court hearing, when he was found not guilty, he approached her afterwards and said, I know where you live, which is obviously incredibly intimidating and horrible. And then she kept on seeing him whenever she was out and about, and seeing him, and he would like walk past her and say, I know where you live, and be really horrible, really threatening. And so she became terrified, as you would, and then she had this incredible pivotal moment where she was just like, you know what, this. And so she starts shouting at this man, literally running after him, saying to him like, you're an abuser, you're a rapist, you're an abuser. And like, so this man was like, oh my God, like caught in his own game, that she was just like chasing after him, shouting at him, saying what he was. And he was just like, ooh. And so she became like this super, like she really empowered herself, and thankfully the man was that much of a coward that he was just like, oh, this isn't worth my time and energy, I'm out of here. So that really made me feel like, you go girl type of situation, because like she's just like such an incredible and brave thing to do, to really face your abuser like that. She also spoke about a previous relationship she had had when she was younger, where it was a physical abuse relationship, which sounded horrible, not nice at all. But then a lot of the book talks about how she became who she is. So she like speaks about her sexuality and how that she never really came out. It was sort of just like a conversation she had with the press. I think they asked about like how your boyfriend is, and she was just like, I haven't got a boyfriend, I've got a girlfriend. And it's just, she's a really inspirational woman. I've listened to her music since. It's not my type of vibe. I can see where people like it. I've looked at one of the videos as well, which was really like trippy. It's definitely not my type of music, and that's fine, but it was a fascinating listen to, I tell you that much. I gave the audiobook 4 stars, but I believe the reading experience would be very different and possibly would get 5 stars from me. The reason I gave it 4 stars is because at the beginning of almost every chapter, she sings a couple of lines from her songs, and although there's nothing wrong with that, because her music is quite like, I don't know the best way to explain it. Just like quite like an eerie type music, and so when I was listening to the book, I was just like, it's a bit creepy at the beginning. Like it's just the vibe it gave me. It was quite like, oh, I don't like this. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. That's why I gave it 4 stars. The story itself is fascinating. Obviously, it's her life. So she's from Jamaican heritage. So how like her mum raised her, very different obviously to how I've been raised, because I'm not Jamaican. I don't know anything about that lifestyle, that upbringing, and Brixton and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, yeah, I really was amazed by how inspirational she is. Her music is very political, very powerful. She goes against everything that the society tells her to do, and it's just, yeah, I was impressed. I was like, wow, this lady is cool. And the third book I read is called Girl A. Let me get it up on Goodreads. I gave this book 4 stars. This book is very much a trigger warning type book. It's about a girl who grew up in a house of horrors. So her and her siblings all were brought up in a very sort of abusive household. Her dad became like super religious, and then took it to another level of like, you know, my kids can't go outside. They, you know, the word of God became intense, abusive. And so, you know, the story starts with her and her sister are both chained up in their bedroom because they are chained and they're not allowed out of their room, and she manages to escape. And it's just about her story and what happened to them and what she's like now as a person. I just want to quickly just say the 4 stars I gave it is because the story had so much potential, but I really struggled to figure out where I was in the timeline, because it jumps back and forward quite a lot. So basically the way the book is written is that it's from the perspective of girl A, whose name is Lex. She is, everything in her perspective, but each chapter is focused on one of her siblings and her relationship with them growing up, and then obviously now in the current time. The issue I had though is that it jumped back and forward quite a lot in that chapter without making it really obvious. So at some point I would be like, when is this? Because it would be, so obviously you could tell when they were kids living with their parents, but then it would be like current day, but then it might be like 3 years ago. So obviously they've left the house, but now it's a bit before current day. So I was just like, I can't figure out where we are. So a lot of the time I did find myself sort of like struggling to figure out whereabouts in the timeline this part of the story happened. The book itself, there was a little bit of a twist at the end, but I think I saw it coming. So I didn't find it as super like, oh, like breathtaking. It's very heartbreaking, very sad, obviously, because not so much the religious side of it, but the abuse side of it is very sad, especially as like a parent, when you have kids, you think, how can people do this? Especially her mum being quite hopeless with helping the kids. And obviously in the book, the mum is obviously a victim as well. But it's just like when at one point she asked her mum for help, and her mum's just like, I'll try. And then she doesn't try and doesn't help, and it just all goes wrong. And it's just like, it's horrible, because you know that horrible things are happening around the world all the time, so it really makes you think about that. And it's just like, oh, I don't like thinking about kids being upset or in like horrible situations. So yeah, that's one part of it as well, which is quite emotional. It is a good book. Like I said, I just struggled with the way it was written. The timeline of it really, I would have given it 5 stars had I been able to keep up with what on earth was going on. But anyway, there are the 3 books I read this month. My Goodreads account says I need to read 1.5 books every week for the rest of the year to reach my 50 book goal. So I don't know if I'm going to do that, because like I said, 3 books for the month of August is not really adequate, considering there are 5 weeks of this month gone, and I didn't do it. So I've got to do it. I say this at the end of every video, and I need to really like fuck up my ideas. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe. Big one there. And yeah, I will see you at the end of September. Fingers crossed, I've read like 7 books. That would be insane. Maybe I could read 10 books in the month of September. Now that would be a fine thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye!